I never thought a simple wheelchair ramp would start a war, but one morning I opened a letter saying I owed nearly $1 million in HOA fines. $1 million, because I built a ramp to get into my own damn house. The funny part, just a few weeks later, I'd be the one evicting the entire HOA off my land. Yeah, their headquarters sat on property that actually belonged to me. But back then I didn't know that. Back then I was just the quiet guy in the corner lot, and I was about to be dragged into the ugliest fight of my life. My name's Jack Miller. I'm an engineer, or was before the accident. These days my legs don't cooperate much, so it's me, my hands, my brain, and my dog Scout. We live in a little brick house my granddad built with his own hands. It's not much, but it's home, peaceful, familiar, full of grease tools, and quiet evenings on the porch. Or it was peaceful right up until the day Karen Walsh moved in. You know the type, clipboard golf cart sunglasses, a permanent look of disapproval. Within a week, she became the new HOA president of Maplewood Court, and somehow she thought that made her queen of the world. The first letter showed up on a Tuesday, a crisp white envelope tucked under my windshield wiper. I thought it was junk mail. Nope, it was a violation notice. Unauthorized structure, $500 fine for the aluminum wheelchair ramp leading to my front porch. I laughed at first. My ramp was safer and better built than any in the neighborhood, but at the bottom of the page in fine print were the words that made my stomach drop. Fines will continue to accumulate until the violation is corrected up to $1 million. $1 million for a ramp. I just stared at that number thinking it had to be a typo. But 2 days later, another envelope appeared taped to my front door this time. This one said, "My van. Violated HOA rules." Apparently because it was modified for a wheelchair, Karen called it a commercial vehicle. Another $500. And then came a third notice for a security wire. I'd buried around my flower bed completely up to code, fully permitted by the city. She called it an unapproved fence. Another fine. $1,500 in 1 week. That night I sat on my porch with the letters spread out on the table. Scout's head was on my knee, and I just felt hollow, like all the air had been sucked out of me. I'd worked so hard to make this place my safe space, now it felt like it was being stripped away paper by someone who barely knew my name. For the first time I wondered, maybe I was the problem. Maybe I should just sell the house, pack up, roll away, and start over somewhere else. That thought that maybe she was right hit me harder than the fines. But then I looked at the ramp, the one I built myself. I thought about my granddad hammering that porch with his calloused hands, and suddenly something in me clicked. He used to say, "Some folks, you give them a little hammer and they'll smash everything just to prove it's theirs." That night I decided I wasn't going to be smashed. I wasn't just going to roll away. I was going to fight, but not with anger, with logic, with proof, with everything I'd been trained to use as an engineer. So I started collecting evidence. Photos, dates, permits, every letter, every envelope, every ridiculous citation. I even set up a hidden camera on my wheelchair. Then I went next door to my buddy, Tom Reynolds, a retired air traffic controller who turned his garage into a mini NASA. Cameras, drones, scanners, the works. He laughed when I mentioned Karen. "Oh, Queen Walsh," he said. 3 patrols a day, every day like clockwork. She even notes down whose trash can is out too long. Perfect. Predictable systems are my favorite kind to dismantle. The very next morning, Karen came rolling up in her golf cart, clipboard in hand, sunglasses glinting like she was on a mission. She parked diagonally across the sidewalk, completely blocking my path. I stopped, looked her dead in the eye, and said, "Could you move, please?" She smiled that fake, sweet smile and said, "Jack, we need to discuss your unpaid fines." "My ramp's legal," I told her, keeping my voice calm. "My van's legal. My alarm system's legal." Her smile dropped. "The rules apply to everyone, Jack. You're not special." I nodded toward her golf cart. "Right now you're blocking a public sidewalk. Are you refusing to move?" She crossed her arms. "Not until you pay and remove that hideous ramp." Click. The camera caught every second. But she wasn't done. A week later at 2 in the morning my alarm went off. Lights flashing, sirens screaming, Scout barking like crazy. Someone had cut through my buried wire, clean deliberate. I called the cops. Officer Ruiz showed up, flashlight scanning the yard. He confirmed it was vandalism. And lucky for me, Tom had his drone in the air that night. The footage showed a single figure sprinting across the lawn straight toward Karen's house. That was the moment it hit me. This wasn't just harassment anymore. This was a siege, and I needed a weapon stronger than patience. So I dug through old boxes in my attic, my granddad's papers, old tools, family documents, and there buried under layers of dust was a thick folder labeled Lease Agreement. The air left my lungs as I read it. Decades ago, my granddad had leased out a small corner lot to the HOA, the same one where their precious office now stood. Rent $1 per year. Conditions: maintain peace. Obey the law. If not, lease terminated. For years they'd been sitting on yet my family's land. All her power, her arrogance, her little kingdom, all of it stood on a foundation that belonged to me. For the first time since this nightmare started, I actually smiled. I called David Chen, a property lawyer and veteran who specialized in ADA law. I told him everything. He listened, then said, "Jack, this isn't just harassment. It's discrimination and breach of contract. And this lease?" He tapped the folder. "This is your hammer." Together we built our case: photos, videos, police reports, everything neatly documented. Then David drafted a notice for the HOA. Drop all fines, fire Karen, apologize, or vacate the property. We had it hand-delivered during their monthly HOA meeting. Tom said the room went dead silent when the server walked in and said, "Karen Walsh, you've been served." Her face went from pale to red in seconds. But of course she ignored it. Pride wouldn't let her step down. So we sued. The day of the court hearing was gray and heavy. I wore my best suit, rolled into the courthouse with Scout by my side. Karen strutted in like she owned the place, dragging a young, nervous-looking lawyer behind her. Her attorney rambled about community standards and neighborhood aesthetics, calling my ramp an eyesore. Then David stood, calm, measured, lethal. "This isn't about paint colors or fences," he said. "This is about a landlord and a tenant. Mr. Miller owns the land under that HOA office. The HOA has violated federal law and the terms of their lease." He laid the lease on the judge's desk, followed by the video of Karen blocking the sidewalk and the police report. The judge didn't hesitate. One firm stamp. HOA evicted. Property returned to Mr. Miller. I'll never forget the sound of that gavel. It echoed like thunder. Karen's jaw dropped. The so-called queen just lost her castle, but it wasn't over yet. We waited until the annual Maplewood Summer Festival, her pride and joy, to serve the final blow. The whole neighborhood was there, food trucks, music, kids running around. And there she was, clipboard in hand, acting like she ruled the place. Then David and I rolled up with 2 sheriff's deputies. The music dimmed as one deputy unfolded a paper and read it out loud. By court order, this building and the land beneath it now belong to Mr. Jack Miller. The HOA has 48 hours to vacate. Karen's voice cracked. "He's trespassing. That's my property." The deputy didn't blink. "Ma'am, it's not yours anymore." The crowd went silent. All eyes on her as the deputies taped off the building and handed me the keys. I held them in my lap, metal glinting in the sun, while Karen stood there, trembling, pale, furious, powerless. Her throne was gone. But tyrants rarely go quietly. A week later, she tried one last trick, a petition claiming I was a public nuisance with 50 signatures and a notary stamp. Except the notary was out of state that whole month and half the signatures were forged. When neighbors found out she'd faked their names, the outrage was volcanic. At the emergency community meeting, I rolled in with copies of the forged petition, a statement from the county clerk, and an affidavit. I didn't need to shout. I just said, "This was never about a ramp. It was about trust. And the person you put in charge broke it." One by one, neighbors stood up telling their own stories of Karen's petty tyranny. Fined for Christmas lights, yelled at for leaving toys outside, warned for having too many plants. Then came the vote. Hands went up across the room. Overwhelming. The HOA was dissolved on the spot. Karen just stood there frozen. Then she stormed out, her little entourage trailing behind her, leaving only silence in her wake. And in that silence, for the first time in months, I felt peace. Sometimes when people push you too far, the best revenge isn't yelling or fighting. It's taking their rules, their arrogance, and using it to crush them fair and square. So yeah, don't ever underestimate the quiet neighbor with receipts, because eventually, justice always finds its way.